Hey everyone, I'm Nancy, just your average 27-year-old. Life took a surprising turn for me a few years ago, and this is my story, straightforward and real. It all began when I changed jobs and became an accountant at a new company. That's where I met Henry. He was the sales guy, confident, charming, with a smile that could sell anything. Our first encounter was in the break room, over the office's finicky coffee machine. "Hey, you're the new accountant, right?" Henry said, leaning casually against the doorframe with a smirk. "Guilty as charged." "I'm Nancy, and you are," I replied, trying to act cool but secretly curious. "Henry, head of sales and the unofficial coffee machine expert," he said with a wink. We both laughed, and from that moment, we hit it off. Fast forward 2 years, and Henry planned the most romantic proposal. A weekend getaway to the beach, dinner at sunset, and then he got down on one knee. It was like a scene from a movie. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was simply beautiful and filled with love. Time flew by quickly after our wedding. We began our married life in my grandpa's old house, a charming place full of history that I've always adored. A few weeks into settling down, Henry brought up a big idea. "Babe, have you ever considered taking a break from work? You know, being a housewife for a while?" Henry suggested one evening, his eyes hopeful. I was surprised. "A housewife? But Henry, I've always been passionate about my career," I replied, trying to hide my confusion. "I understand, Nancy, but work has been going well for me. We can afford it. Imagine no more stress, just focusing on us. Maybe starting a family soon," he said, reaching for my hand. His words were convincing, and I couldn't help but be swayed by his enthusiasm. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. Why not shake things up a bit, right? The first few weeks were exciting. I finally had time for gardening, reading, and trying new recipes. Henry would come home to a clean house and dinner on the table. We spent our evenings making plans and laughing. It felt like an extended honeymoon phase. But as time passed, I began to feel restless. I missed the challenges of my job and the satisfaction of solving complex problems. I even missed the annoying buzz of my office phone. Still, I brushed those feelings aside, telling myself it was just an adjustment period. Then things started to change. Slowly, Henry's compliments about the house or dinner turned into expectations. If dinner was late or the house wasn't perfectly tidy, he'd make comments that hurt more than I wanted to admit. I felt less like a partner and more like a live-in maid. I called my best friend Maria to talk about it. "I feel like I'm losing a bit of myself, you know?" I confided in her. "You're a firecracker, Nancy. Don't let this housewife gig douse your spark," Maria encouraged, her voice a mix of concern and support. Maria had a good point. I've always prided myself on being independent and making my way. Now I felt lost in a role I never imagined playing. After settling into this housewife routine, I thought I had everything figured out. But I was mistaken. One evening, Henry dropped a bombshell that turned everything upside down. He came home looking serious, which was unusual. "Nancy, we need to talk," he began, not even taking off his coat. "What's up? You look like you've seen a ghost," I joked, trying to lighten the mood. "It's my folks. Their apartment is getting renovated and they need a place to crash for a couple of weeks," Henry said, avoiding eye contact. "A couple of weeks? Here?" "But yeah, it's just for a short while. It won't be too bad," he assured me. I sighed reluctantly. "Okay, but they need to respect our space, Henry." "Of course they will. Thanks, babe, you're the best." Fast forward a few days, and Henry's parents, Bob and Julie, arrived. It was chaos. Bags, boxes, even furniture. They brought everything but the kitchen sink. "Nancy, dear, make room. We've got a lot of stuff," Julie said, barging in with a box that seemed to contain her entire life. Bob followed, struggling with a huge armchair. "Hope you don't mind us bringing some comforts from home," he grunted as he squeezed it through the door. Our cozy home turned into a storage unit overnight. Everywhere I looked, there were their belongings. It was overwhelming to say the least, but that was just the beginning. Bob and Julie wasted no time settling in. Bob took over the TV, flipping channels like he owned the place. Julie started rearranging my kitchen. "Julie, what are you doing?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Oh, just organizing things a bit better, dear. You know how it is," she replied without even looking at me. I bit my tongue, reminding myself it was temporary. But inside, I was furious. This was my home, and they were treating it like their vacation house. Then came the dinner disaster. I made a healthy salad and grilled chicken, my usual fare. But Julie looked at her plate like I'd served her grass. "What's this, rabbit food?" she scoffed, pushing the plate away. "Mom, come on. Nancy worked hard on this." Henry tried to intervene. "It's fine, Henry. I can make something else," I said, though it was far from fine. No, let's order pizza. I need some real food," Bob chimed in, already reaching for his phone. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in my own home. Henry snored beside me, unaware of the turmoil inside me. I was doing all the hosting, cooking, and cleaning, only to be treated like an unpaid maid in my own house. My in-laws, Bob and Julie, had turned my house into their playground. Julie started taking over the kitchen like she was running a military operation. One morning, as I made my usual avocado toast, she marched in and made a face. "What are you eating? Bird food?" She snorted, rummaging through the fridge. "It's avocado toast, Julie. It's healthy," I replied, trying to stay calm. Healthy. You need some real food, girl. Here, let me make you some eggs and bacon," she said, pushing me aside. I stood there fuming as she took over my breakfast. It was clear she didn't respect my choices or my space. Then there was Bob. He had turned our living room into his lounge. One evening, I wanted to watch my favorite show, but Bob was sprawled on the couch watching some loud action movie. "Bob, do you mind if I watch my show? It's the season finale tonight," I asked, holding the remote. "No can do, Nancy. I'm watching this. Find something else to do," he replied without even looking my way. I couldn't believe it, feeling like a stranger in my living room. I stormed off, but the real kicker came a few days later. I found Julie rearranging my closet. My closet? "Julie, that's my stuff," I yelled, losing my temper. "Oh, relax, Nancy. I'm just making some space for our things. You've got too much junk here anyway," she said, tossing my clothes aside. That's when Henry walked in. "What's all the yelling about?" he asked, looking at me, then to his mother. "Your mother's going through my things. That's what's wrong," I snapped. "Mom, maybe you should ask Nancy before moving her stuff," Henry said, but his tone was half-hearted. Fine, I was just trying to help," Julie huffed, leaving the room. Henry turned to me. "Nancy, can't you just let it go? They're just trying to fit in." "They're taking over, Henry. This is our home, not theirs," I said, my voice rising. Henry sighed. "Just bear with it a bit longer, okay?" I felt so alone in that moment. My home didn't feel like mine anymore, and it seemed like Henry was more on their side than mine. The situation in my house was already pretty tense, but what happened next really pushed me over the edge. One day, I noticed my bank card was missing. Panic mode kicked in. I tore the house apart looking for it, only to find it in the most unexpected place, Julie's purse. I confronted her immediately. "Julie, why do you have my bank card?" She just shrugged. "Oh, I needed to pick up a few things and didn't have cash on me. I didn't think it would be a big deal." "A big deal? You took my card without asking. That's stealing." I was fuming. Before I could say another word, Henry walked in. "What's all this shouting about?" he asked, looking at me, then at his mother. "Your mom took my bank card and used it without my permission," I explained, holding up the card. He turned to Julie. "Mom, you should have asked first." Julie rolled her eyes. "I just needed a few groceries. It's not like I bought a diamond necklace." I couldn't believe my ears. "It's my money, Julie. You can't just take my things." That's when Henry dropped a bombshell. "Nancy, let's not blow this out of proportion. You live off my money anyway, so what's the big deal if my mom uses it?" I was speechless. His words hit me like a slap in the face. "Your money? I can't believe you're saying this. It's our money, Henry, and our marriage." He just shrugged. "Whatever. It's not a big deal. She'll pay you back." I felt like I was in some bad dream. My husband was taking his mother's side over something so serious. A couple of weeks passed, and the tension in the house became unbearable. I decided it was time to ask the big question. "So, when are you two planning to move back to your apartment?" I asked Bob and Julie one evening at dinner. They just laughed. "Move back? Why would we do that?" Julie said, exchanging a look with Henry. "Yeah, we've decided to stay here. It's much nicer, and Henry doesn't want to waste money on rent for us," Bob added. I turned to Henry, looking for some sort of explanation. He avoided my eyes. "Yeah, Nancy, it doesn't make sense to rent a place for them when we have space here," he said. I sat there stunned. My home, my sanctuary was being overtaken. My husband, whom I thought was my partner, was now telling me his parents were here to stay. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. One day I decided to go for a jog to clear my head, but luck wasn't on my side. I tripped and fell, and the pain was instant. I knew I had broken my leg. Hobbling back home was a nightmare. When I got back, I found Henry and his parents in the living room. "Henry, I think I broke my leg. I need to go to the hospital," I said, trying to keep the pain out of my voice. Henry looked up, annoyed. "What now, Nancy? Can't you see we're busy here?" Julie chimed in. "Oh, stop being dramatic. It's probably just a sprain." "No, it hurts. I need help," I insisted, feeling the room spin from the pain. Bob scoffed. "At your age, you shouldn't be running around like a teenager. Serves you right." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I'm in pain here. Can't any of you see that?" Henry finally got up, his expression more of an inconvenience than concern. "Fine, I'll take you. But this better not be simply to get out of housework." At the hospital, it was confirmed. A broken leg. The next few weeks were hell. I was stuck at home on crutches, unable to do much. You'd think my husband and his parents would help, right? Wrong. They acted as if nothing had changed. I was still expected to cook and clean. One day I was trying to make lunch, balancing on my crutches. Julie walked in and saw me struggling. "Can't you do that any faster? We're hungry," she said, not offering to help. "I'm doing the best I can on one leg," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "Well, it's not good enough. You're being incredibly lazy," Julie retorted. That's when Henry walked in. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking at me and then at his mother. "Your wife is taking forever to make lunch. It's like she's using her injury as an excuse," Julie complained. Henry sighed. "Nancy, can't you just try a bit harder? We're all hungry here." I was in disbelief. "Try harder? I'm on crutches, Henry. What do you expect me to do?" He just shrugged and left the kitchen with his mom, leaving me there seething and in pain. You won't believe what happened next in my in-law nightmare. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. A few weeks after my injury, Julie and Bob announced they were hosting Thanksgiving at our house and inviting their relatives over. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. "Thanksgiving at our house?" I asked incredulously. "How am I supposed to manage that with my leg like this?" Julie just waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, you won't have to do much. Just stay out of the way and let us handle it," she said. I was fuming. "This is my house, Julie. You can't just invite people over without asking me." That's when Henry stepped in. "Nancy, it's just a family gathering. Let's not make a big deal out of it." "A big deal, Henry? I can barely walk and now your parents are taking over our house for a party," I said, my voice rising. Bob chimed in. "We thought it would be nice to have a family gathering here. After all, we're all living under the same roof now." And then Julie dropped another bombshell. "Nancy, we were thinking it might be best if you stayed somewhere else for a couple of weeks. With your leg and all, you'll just be in the way." I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. "Stay somewhere else? In my own house?" "Yes, dear, just for a couple of weeks. It's for the best," Julie continued as if she was doing me a favor. I felt my blood boiling. "You want me to leave my house so you can play host? That's insane," Henry chimed in, trying to sound reasonable. "Nancy, it's just for a short while. It'll be easier for everyone." "Easier for everyone? This is my home, Henry. I'm not going anywhere," I shot back, my voice shaking with anger. Bob shrugged. "We thought you'd appreciate not having to deal with the stress of the holiday." That was it. I lost it. "Get out! Both of you! Get out of my house now!" I yelled, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. Henry's face turned red. "Nancy, you're being unreasonable. They're my parents. You can't just kick them out." "Unreasonable? They're taking over my home and you're letting them!" I practically screamed. Henry's expression hardened. "If you can't respect my parents, maybe we shouldn't be together. Is that what you want? A divorce?" I glared at him, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Without a word, I went to my desk drawer and pulled out a set of papers I had prepared just in case things went south. "What's this?" Henry asked, his voice faltering as he took the papers from my hand. "Divorce papers. I've had them ready for a while now, I said, my voice steady. Henry looked at me, then at the papers and back at me. You serious? You'd go through with this? Yes, I am. I won't be bullied in my own house. Not by you, not by anyone, I said, feeling a strange sense of empowerment amidst the chaos. Julie and Bob just stood there speechless. Henry looked like he had been punched in the gut. The room was thick with tension. Make your choice, Henry, your parents or our marriage, I said, holding my ground. Henry laughed, a cold, hard sound that sent shivers down my spine. Fine, he said, and to my shock, he signed the papers right there and then. You'll regret this, Nancy. You can't even support yourself without me, he said. I watched him, feeling a mix of relief and disbelief. I'll manage, I said, though my voice was barely a whisper. He shrugged. You're lost then. He and his parents gathered their things and left. Just like that, my marriage was over. The moment the door closed behind them, I felt a strange sense of peace. I was alone, yes, but it was a better alternative to the constant tension and disrespect. The first thing I did was change the locks. It felt like I was securing my fortress. Thanksgiving came around faster than I expected. I was still adjusting to my new reality, finding comfort in the quiet of my home and the company of my cat. Then, unexpectedly, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Henry, his parents, and a bunch of their relatives standing there ready to celebrate. What are you doing here? I asked, stunned. We're here for Thanksgiving, Nancy. Did you think we were serious about not coming? Henry said with a smug look. I couldn't believe the audacity. You're not welcome here anymore, Henry. This is my house and you're not my family. Not after what you did. Julie piped up. Oh, come on, Nancy, don't be so petty. Let's just have a nice dinner. I stood my ground. No, you need to leave. Now. Henry laughed. You can't kick us out. This was our family home. Not anymore. I changed the locks, Henry. You gave up any right to this house when you signed those papers, I said, feeling a surge of empowerment. There was a moment of silence. Then Henry's face turned red with anger. Fine, have it your way, he said, and they all turned and left. After the Thanksgiving showdown, I started to rebuild my life. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy, but it was mine. A few weeks after Henry and his family left for good, I was sitting in my quiet, peaceful living room when my best friend Maria dropped by. Hey, Nancy, how are you holding up? Maria asked as she walked in, her eyes scanning the room. Better than I expected, actually, I replied, offering her a smile. Maria sat down, looking at me closely. You seem different, stronger somehow, I chuckled. Yeah, I guess getting rid of dead weight does that to you. We both laughed, and at that moment, I felt lighter than I had in months. But seriously, what's next for you, Nancy? Maria asked, her tone shifting to something more serious. I took a deep breath. I'm going back to work. I've already started looking for accounting jobs. I'm not going to lie, it's a bit scary, but it's time to get back on my feet. Maria nodded. That's the spirit. You were always the smartest one at the office. They'll be lucky to have you back. Her words encouraged me a lot and gave me the boost I needed. I was ready to face the world again, on my terms. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of job interviews and getting my life back on track. I landed a great position at a local firm, and for the first time in a long while, I was excited about the future. My home was mine again. My life was mine again. I had faced the worst and come out stronger.